Song Talk Radio.
Welcome to Song Talk Radio, the show with songwriters talking to other songwriters about the craft of songwriting. We share tips, tools, and techniques, and together we all become better at writing songs. I'm your host, Neil Modi, and filling in for Phil Emery, my co-host, singer-songwriter, and music educator from Boston, Susan Catania. Thanks again for joining us.
Hello, Neil. Hi, how are you?
I'm doing quite well. Thank you for joining us again. We
love to be here.
Oh, that's great, because we always love having you on the podcast, and your great music brain is always a great leg up on our show. So everybody else, please send in your comments and questions to @SongTalkRadio on Twitter, Facebook, or Instagram, or feedback@songtalk.ca, and we'll share your thoughts on the show. And please visit songtalk.ca to see the show post for this episode, to follow links to resources we mention, and to download lyric and chord sheets to follow along with the songs that we feature. And before we get to tonight's guest, just another heads up about our songwriting challenge for 2023 is to write a song in a mode. So we're looking forward to hearing our listeners submit their answers. Phil and I are going to be sharing our answers to the challenge in June. And of course, on the website, songtalk.ca, on the sidebar, there is a link there to a dedicated webpage where we're continuing to add resources. And I saw a great little video on my YouTube channel again. It's a tiny little 3-minute video where the video host literally shows you how to write a guitar riff, a heavy metal guitar riff in Locrian.
Oh, I want to see that.
Yeah,
I want to see that. That sounds great.
And he does it in 3 minutes. So like, this is brilliant. It's right to the point, and
Nice.
and explains how the mode works and all that, and then tells you how to do it on the electric guitar. Of course, he uses a MIDI piano roll view to show you the notes, and then plays it on the guitar. So
I think the world needs more Locrian songs. Definitely. There aren't enough.
Oh, absolutely. Especially as we discussed on the show where we investigated a couple modes, like modern pop songs, major, minor. That's pretty much it. Like no one's exploring those kind of spaces anymore, unless you go to jazz, classical, or more indie stuff. So it's hopefully I don't know. Like there's got to be a thing where it swings the other way and people become more experimental in the pop area with music. We want to see something like that, and a little bit of misheard lyrics that happened today. Or earlier today, Susan posted a great little video on her social media singing "Time After Time" by Cyndi Lauper, and who's the other songwriter? Rob Heyman. And of course she was displaying the lyrics on there, and the line that had what was it? Suitcase of memories, time after time, right? And of course, I've been hearing that song since I was like 9 years old, and I always heard it as "Soon came the memories, soon came the memory." That's how I've always heard it for 40 years. And just today, I saw that version of it. I was like, that's got to be right, because you would have done your research before you posted that video. Or maybe I had a moment of like, oh God, I got it wrong. Have I been singing it wrong? But no, it is a suitcase of memories, which is so much better. Which is a fabulous metaphor. It's fantastic. It's a great little metaphor. Right? And soon came the memories. What is that even mean? Well, we need to write a "Soon Came the Memories" song in Locrian. Right there, we go. It's a whole new song. It's a misheard lyric, and sometimes the best songs come out of misheard lyrics. Absolutely. It reminds me of a jam session I had when I was like 17 years old in high school. I was playing keyboards. My friend was singing into the microphone, and my other friend was playing guitar. And we were just jamming out something. And the little experiment we ran is he just blurted out some vowels and consonants into the microphone, like really heavily distorted. I wrote down on a piece of paper what I thought he was saying. Yeah. So I was constructing real words and things, and we came up with his lyrics, complete nonsense, but it generated an interesting idea actually by the end of it. It was kind of cool. Great little song prompt idea. Yeah, totally. it was total just spontaneous thing we decided to do, and it's like, okay, that worked
Yeah.
well. But yeah, your song in Locrian, Susan, I think you'll be submitting that to us for
Soon
our,
came the memories. I'll
Soon
get to
Came
work
Memories
right
in
on it
Locrian.
after this.
That sounds great. All right, we look forward to that, and to everyone else sending in your submissions, writing in a mode you're not familiar with, or in an unusual mode, whatever that means to you. And tonight, we're very happy to re-welcome Americana Canadiana singer-songwriter Pete Eastmure. And here's a taste of his song, Devil's Taxi.
I see the leaves, they're turning brown. The sky, an awful shade of amber. And we went walking down Sherwood Forest, didn't see Friar Tuck or Little John. I'm in a devil's taxi, it's taking me round and round. I'm in a devil's taxi, taking me further down.
Pete Eastmure is diving deeper into the Americana Canadiana genre with his new album, Devil's Taxi. The album was created during the shutdown and is a follow-up to Pete's acclaimed album, Keep Your Love Steady, from 2019. The single, Devil's Taxi, is an evocative and emotional journey song rooted in the story of Robin Hood and seen through the lens of a modern world gone mad. Devil's Taxi is co-produced by Pete Eastmure and Steve Dawson and the Henhouse Express in Nashville, Tennessee. Influenced by Gordon Lightfoot, Joni Mitchell, Stompin Tom Connors, and Hank Williams, this album takes the listener on a spirit journey into the heart of Canada, from the gorgeous Lake Superior to Moose Jaw, Saskatchewan, the Klondike Gold Rush of 1896, Dawson City, rural southern Ontario, and Devil's Glen and the Mad River. Welcome back to Song Talk Radio, Pete Eastmure.
Hey, thanks very much, Neil. So great to be here.
So great to see you again. Pete last joined us back in 2019 in the Before Times, live in a radio station in downtown Toronto, where we used to do it. And
yeah, I remember that.
And now
well.
you're back, and this is your first release since then, isn't it?
Yeah, things shut down. And hi, Susan. I know I said hi to you a little bit earlier, but on the air, good to see
Peter,
you.
it's so nice to meet you, and I'm so glad I got to hear your song before I met you. So it's kind of awesome.
Yeah, thank you so much.
So how's the songwriting process been then for you? Like you said, this entire album was written during the shutdown. What about the shutdown? How did it affect your songwriting?
Well, the songs actually came out I write in song cycles, which seems to be the way they come out with me, and most of these songs are actually written just before the pandemic. And when I was on tour, I went out west touring for like 3 years in a row, called the Western Campfires Tour, playing small and large halls. And I'm continually writing. And all those songs came out of right up until 2019, I believe. And so then I decided, well, I can't play live. I can't, I'm sitting at home. What am I going to do? And I had an opportunity to record with one of my first choices in recording, Steve Dawson from Nashville, who's also a Canadian, and such a fine musician. And coincidentally enough, I had previously pre-chosen my drummer for this record, which is Gary Craig, who plays with everybody from Bruce Coburn to Jan Arden to Blackie and the Rodeo Kings, and is actually a neighbor in Toronto in the East End here. And so Steve was working with Gary and Jeremy Holmes from Vancouver. So we connected all of us together, the four of us together, and we're able to make the record.
So you recorded over the pandemic. It was a lot of work being done remotely, like people were doing things on their own?
It was all done remotely. I had to learn. I put the guide tracks down in my small studio upstairs here on the second floor. I had to learn a little bit of recording processes, how to record my acoustic guitar and vocals, and so it was done. We'd have a Zoom meeting like we're having here today, once a week. And I did it over the process of about a year and a half because I didn't have a lot of money coming in. And, you do what you can. So I basically did one song a month or sometimes a little more. And we have a Zoom meeting. We talk about the song. And I gave very specific references to what I had in mind for the song. And the guide track that I did in guitar is basically the guide track you heard on the record. So there was all the arrangements were done beforehand, right till the last second. Nothing was moved around, so it had to be very precise. And with all these great players, it turned out, I think, pretty well. So,
and given your style of music, and we don't necessarily talk a lot about production on the show since we're a songwriting podcast, but this is something that's been gnawing at me lately, being a drummer. Did you record your guide tracks to a click, or did you record them free?
I used a click so that the drummer would be like right in there, and it would be easier for them. Yeah, and I don't mind using a click because it's it's kind of cool.
Well, yeah, I mean, I kind of feel like everyone says, well, the Beatles didn't use a click, and in the old days they didn't use a click.
Yeah,
but they had a bunch of guys and gals in a room playing together, and that was what creates the tightness. When you're doing it separately, it's really hard. It's amazing what you can if you can't see, like if I'm playing the drums and I can't see the bass player and where his fingers are moving, it really throws me off, right? And it's like that visual cue is what keeps a band tight. When you don't have that, then you need something else.
Absolutely. So I think actually the process was I did my guide track and a ghost vocal, and then I redid the vocals later at Canterbury Music Company in Toronto, all the vocals and background vocals. But once I did the guide track, I think the drums were actually the first part of it that goes on. Gary did the drums, and then they added the other parts as they saw fit, right?
Yeah.
When especially, I think like playing to a click gets a bad rap because the fact is that especially if you're trying to record remotely, I have no idea how that would happen if we weren't all in time. You know what I mean? Like time is a really important thing, especially when you're trying to send your song out and have other players put their stuff on it and send it back to you. So, yeah. I record with a click that I'll try and create like a mini drum track to sing to. So it doesn't feel so static. It doesn't feel as unmusical as a sound on. And I think that.
Yeah, I do that too. I put a drum track behind myself just to get a feel for what I wanted in it. And it was very helpful.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. The thing I'm going through right now with my band is that a couple of the songs are pretty steady tempo throughout, but there's one song in particular that we naturally, just playing it live, sped up a little bit in the chorus and then slowed down again for the verse. And so, we actually have like it mapped out like a tempo map where it ramps up, ramps back down to the same tempo as the first verse, and trying to do it, so that it feels natural. Because if we tried doing it, a recording where it was just steady tempo all the way through, and it just felt wrong.
Wow. Yeah.
So I think it depends on the song, but yeah, I'm in favor of click anyway. Okay, so tell us a little bit about Devil's Taxi. Where did this song come from?
Well, it came from a walk my partner and I did in Toronto, actually, in Sherwood Park, which I always refer to as Sherwood Forest. So we were going on this amazing walk one day. I think it probably was a Sunday, and it was pretty cool. And then the next morning, I woke up as I usually do, and had a song idea. And literally, I looked out the window, and there was this really awesome amber sky. I think it was the night before. Yeah, it was the sunset. And when I saw it, it just it just really moved me. It was like magnificent. And the next morning, I just sat down at the dining room table, literally 8 o'clock in the morning, and started off. I see the leaves are turning brown, the sky an awful shade of amber, and the song literally, I guess it kind of wrote itself, and I incorporated the Sherwood Forest into it, and it just kind of led the way, and I kind of just followed it. And
what was the kind of unifying idea? Like you got this name of this park, Sherwood, and you associated Sherwood Forest with it. That's kind of maybe obvious. And then the amber sky. Like what was the thing that tied those two things together?
I think I'm very much in tune with the environment around me. So if something is poetic that I look up in a cloud or in the sky, I can put words to it. So I can describe it, or I can make it a little bit abstract. And then, of course, I've been a prolific reader my whole life, and so I know the old stories, the old traditional stories, everything from Robin Hood to Robinson Crusoe to Swiss Family Robinson. Reading Sherlock Holmes, the complete works, and so I decided to make this little drama. About maybe I was out to meet somebody there. Maybe I am sort of a Robin Hood character, and I'm trying to find my buddies, Friar Tuck and Little John. Right? They're larger than life characters, and so just introducing them to the story, it just kind of wrote itself. Now, The Devil's Taxi is very urban. It's what I do. I ride around. It's a juxtaposition.
Exactly.
I love throwing juxtapositions in, and you're deep in a forest now. You're like in a very busy urban setting. I don't know whether you saw the video of the. There's like 50,000 taxis from all over the world in the video we did of this. But I'm driving around. I think I'm going to Grossman's Tavern with all my gear, which is a blues country place in Toronto, mainly blues. But I played there quite often, and you're trying to make a little bit of money, and you're paying the dues. I've always felt very important that for me, I have to pay my dues by just being out there, whether I'm touring solo across Canada, or I'm asked to do a concert somewhere, or a recording. It's a building process for me, and so the Devil's Taxis were all in a Devil's Taxi. And I also had a very strong impression of Dante's Inferno. All these circles of Haiti going down and down and down. So I had a very strong impression. I didn't quote that, but it's taking you round and round. I'm in a Devil's Taxi. You're going further down. Who knows where you're going to end up? But
I love hearing you talk about it, Peter, because I think that those were the things that I really was struck by in this song. Certainly this kind of dichotomy that you have going on between like nature and urban life, right? So we have the verses are all nature, there are nature elements in all of the verses, right? Even the one about you going to a club, you have a stone stuck in your shoe, right? So you don't have like a pencil stuck in your shoe or some kind of tech thing. No, you have a stone stuck in your shoe, which connects you to nature.
Yeah,
and then
it happens. You get a stone stuck, and you have to take your shoe off, or you're walking a while, you don't realize, your foot is hurting. But if you, then it makes you think, what am I doing?
I was also struck by the fact that there was this like kind of how to describe it, like above ground, below ground. So for me, the verses were all above ground and the chorus was below ground. So we have things happening, and I don't know Sherwood Park. So for me, I only understood the lyric as being Sherwood Forest and Robin Hood and the sheriff and trying to find, Friar Tuck and Little John. But it was like, we're in nature, but then underneath, there was this, I really totally loved that, taking me round and round. I totally got that, taking me further down. So it was like, what lurks beneath? And speaking of a suitcase of memories as a great, metaphor, we have Devil's Taxi. It's a great metaphor.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm interested, like, how did you connect those two? Because for me, like, if I were writing about Robin Hood, I would probably have gone to a chorus that had more of like a nature aspect. And what made you choose Devil's Taxi? So interesting.
I really have no idea. It came to me as something that is, how can I put it? We're all on a journey, and we're all riding different, vehicles. Whether you're riding a horse, you could, you're expecting, Robin Hood might be riding a horse or something. But we're in the modern. This is 2023 now. We're on our electric scooters, or we're on our in our Teslas, or like me, we're in our Pontiac Vibe 2009. And we're getting around any way we can. I was changing the manifold on that today as well, changing the PCV valve as one of my jobs. But so we're all in our own unique and also shared mode of transportation, and it's the urgency of the modern world, where we're driven into traffic jams. We're trying to get somewhere, but how do you get there when everything is so clogged up, and you're at the mercy of a very nice taxi driver, but at the same time you're stuck in this cycle, maybe a vicious cycle, but also some beautiful things happen as well. So you're in a Devil's Taxi, and you got to pay the price. It's a little bit. So that you can get back to nature, so you can get back to the environment. Like I grew up in kind of the near northern Ontario, Wawa, Lake Superior, which is but I spent the last 45 years in living in Toronto. But if I don't get away camping, and I get fried. If I don't get into nature, like seriously away, then I go insane. And I think a lot of people are like that. Maybe people don't even know they're insane, but they need to connect with nature to make themselves whole, I guess.
And that's one of the really amazing things about Toronto, and I'm sure other cities as well, is that when you go into places like Sherwood Park or one of the river ravines into the bike paths down there and stuff like that, you have no idea you're in the middle of a city. Like, it is so quiet and serene, and it's just the river going by, and it's just like, and all you do is you take the access road like down from the street, and it's a completely different world. I really liked, we're gonna listen to the song in a minute, the full song in a minute, but I really liked the contrast musically as well between the verse and the chorus, because I didn't study the chords necessarily, but it felt like the chorus was major, or the verse was major, and the chorus was minor. Like, it really went to a dark place, right? And when you're getting into that lyric, the Devil's Taxi, it's just taking me round and round. My thinking on that, my interpretation of that, and this is what's interesting about your approach, your very open approach to interpretation, and letting the listener really decide what it's about. Because I saw Devil's Taxi, excuse me. So Devil's Taxi, and I thought, well, a taxi typically is something that you go from A to B. It's a straight line most of the time. You certainly have a starting point and an end point, but in your very next line, I'm going round and round, because it's not a normal taxi. It's the Devil's Taxi. It's a deceptive taxi. It's a taxi that's not going to take you from one point to another. It is the taxi that's just going to keep going around and around in circles, and you never get to your destination. So that's kind of an interesting, it's a really powerful image, and a really interesting thing.
Somebody was telling me the other day, it reminded me of like my songs are very cinematic. And somebody said, they've always said they like the title Devil's Taxi, and somebody mentioned Robert De Niro, Taxi Driver. It's a little bit, it's just somehow those two words, they really hit you, Devil's Taxi. And So, I went with it. And
when I first saw your title, you know what I thought of right away when I heard your song? Planes, Trains, and Automobiles, when they land in Kansas.
Oh, yeah.
And the first cab driver they go with as like
John Candy and
John Candy and
Steve Martin.
And Steve Martin,
right?
Yeah. And the first cab driver they have in some rural Kansas town has got like the skull and the bones and everything on his taxi.
And it's so funny. I went to Devil's Haircut, which is a song by Beck.
Yeah, I love that.
That's really like, disturbing and has also a dystopian kind of feel to it, which your chorus certainly did. For me, I also wanted to mention, I think Neil's right in the sense that I feel like we're never going to get to that destination. And the meter's just going to keep ticking. And I wondered how or if that connected with the idea of consumerism, money, as it relates to the verse where you talk about the sheriff and that you're with this arrow, you're going to shoot the sheriff, should be apples for the poor, not just the rich and tart. Tart is really interesting. Was there a money connection that you were thinking of related to the taxi and the last verse?
I think it was the inequality of society. I was thinking of it was really the have and the have-nots, and so it's pretty direct. That's what my reference is for that.
Nice.
Yeah.
And those characters, the sheriff, had a job to do, which was capture Robin Hood, and Robin's job was to keep getting away and keep feeding the poor, quite frankly.
To try to make things.
He was a hero, and I think there are people like that around still, and obviously both sides of the equation. So I just wanted to let people know that I thought one of the strongest lines was, I'm going to hang him up, going to watch him dangle. It's so visual. And when I was recording that, you have to be, and the other thing is very interesting. I was producing my own vocals, which was to me a bit of a nightmare because Steve Dawson was in Nashville, and the arrangement was that I would go and redo my vocals here in Toronto. And but you have to be careful not to get too emotional about things so that the song and the word can just hang there. So I didn't linger on dangle for very long. I just got the word dangle, and then there's some really nice guitar parts and pedal steel that follows it. It just goes down, down, down.
Okay.
So,
right. So there's clearly a lot to unpack there. So let's take a listen to the full song, and we'll get in all those lyrics and all those images and all the tasty guitar parts and everything. And okay. And then we'll talk about it a little bit more on the other side.
I see the leaves, they're turning brown. The sky, an awful shade of amber. And we went walking down Sherwood Forest, didn't see Friar Tuck or Little John. I'm in a devil's taxi, it's taking me round and round. I'm in a devil's taxi, taking me further down. I'm in a devil's taxi with a stone stuck in my shoe. Got my gear loaded, gonna make some money, gonna pay some dues. I'm in a devil's taxi, it's taking me round and round. I'm in a devil's taxi, taking me further down. Said he's a robber all the same. Gonna hang him up, gonna watch him dangle. But with this arrow I'm gonna pierce the sheriff's heart. Should be apples for the poor, not just a rich and tart. I'm in a devil's taxi, it's taking me round and round. I'm in a devil's taxi, taking me further down. I see the leaves, they're turning brown. The sky, an awful shade of amber. And we went walking down Sherwood Forest, didn't see Friar Tuck or Little John.
Wonderful. How come you decided to end it with the same verse as you opened it? It's an interesting choice.
It's just the circle, I guess, just going back to where the beginning was. The person had this journey, and you're still back in this maybe imaginary place where you wrote the song, and you're starting off again, and it just goes back to that. I thought it would be strong to just put it in that like that.
Do you what I also loved the fact that amber kind of gives us hell again. So for me, like I like the fact that we kind of come back to that.
It's definitely the color was very important. It's like a goldish brown color, amber, and it's not just amber. It's an awful shade of amber. It wasn't.
Exactly.
It wasn't pretty. It was just powerful, you know.
Right.
And so it's almost like it's the color of the song, obviously. So it was important for me to reinforce that, I guess, if I want to be a little technical. Yeah.
It's interesting because sorry.
You got that other reference in the third verse with the sheriff. With this arrow, I'm going to pierce the sheriff's heart. Should be apples. I'm like, arrow, apples. Like there's an association there, but it starts to make me wonder,
Isn't
like
that
how
the William Tell overture.
Yeah, the William Tell thing, right? And it's like you've got all these little literary references and things in there, and how is it a I guess let me put it this way: is it a fun thing for you to hear your audience interpret these things in different ways? because it is fairly open, right? Like you could read into that and okay, now this has something to do with William Tell. Let me look at that and go, okay, what's going on here?
Yeah, absolutely. I really want people to have their own interpretation. I wouldn't get too involved in interpreting the song for others. I mean, songs are like it's like a word is a springboard, a character is a springboard off into whatever that person's previous experience of that particular story and metaphor might be. So I want us to have our own interpretation, but enjoy it maybe in their own way and find little meanings in it that sometimes I don't even know I see a meaning in a song that I wrote, and it'll be like a year later, I'll see where the connection is. I mean, sometimes I'll have an obvious connection, but then there's other connections, right? So, yeah. So the arrow and the apple, of course, you know, there's lots of talk in the Bible about apples, and you know.
Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's true, and someone else may interpret it in that way. You know, there's no serpent in here, but yeah.
But we are in a forest. There are trees.
You never know what you'll find down in the
and the devil's there
in the circles of the devil's taxi. You know, so going round and round. So.
And then I think that's kind of your thing, right? Like you don't write any songs that are just a straightforward storytelling.
Oh yeah, I do.
Okay.
Yeah, like a song off the record, Tom Mix, for instance, was a song about a guy, Tom Mix, not the guy from the 20s and 30s who was a movie actor, but he was a guy from Creemore, Ontario, that worked with my father in the woods, because at Devil's Glen, actually, the devil's kind of runs through this whole record, kind of interesting, Canada, and so it was a story about this friend of mine, Tom Mix, who worked with my dad and in the woods, and I used to tag along on Saturdays and go and hang out with him with my dog, my border collie Lady. And we drank coffee with lots of sugar in it out of aluminum thermos. And he chewed tobacco, so it's right in the song. And he was my first person who offered me chewing tobacco at age 8. You know, I pretended, you know, I always wanted to be older than I was. You know, I never thought I'd reach this grand old age. But I always wanted to be older, so I was always doing whatever the adults were, drinking coffee with sugar and chewing tobacco, which I didn't like. But you know, I didn't tell them that. You know, that was so. Check out Tom Mix at some point.
Yeah, that's cool. That's interesting that you just as you're comfortable floating both ways. Like I don't know if many songwriters kind of are weighed to one side or the other, literal storytelling or more abstract imagery.
Yeah,
I don't know.
I can go wherever the muse takes me. I mean, I try not to censor myself. I try not to edit myself too much. And you know, I end up writing a lot of crap. But then I write some really good stuff as well. So that's the stuff I hope you hear on records. So
absolutely.
Nice. Well, I love the I also wanted to talk about the fact that, you know, point of view is really interesting in a song. So you can write in normally story songs are written in third person point of view. So in this case, it would be like he's in a devil's taxi. So we'd kind of have a distance from the story. Yeah. And that's what happens, especially a lot with songs that have a lot of literary references in them. It's usually far. Or it could have been in second person point of view where you use the you. So you becomes the I. So you'd be, you're in a devil's taxi, you know, taking you round and round. You're in a devil's taxi. And I thought it was really interesting that you chose first person to write from, because it gives us a really wonderful sense of intimacy. And it doesn't, you know, I know you're kind of saying that we're all in we're all in the devil's taxi, but I think by putting it on yourself, it doesn't come off as preachy in any way, right? Because it's a first person song. I thought that was cool.
I'm just leading my own life, and you know, having like this is the frame of reference is myself, and so I talk about I did this, and I saw the leaves, and I'm in a devil's taxi, and I'm talking to the sheriff, or I heard what the sheriff said, and my reaction to it. Yeah,
because the sheriff verse is the only verse that's in third person, without the I. But yeah, it's an interesting perspective, because it's like this is how I see the world, but this is how I see the world.
Exactly.
Right? It is very much the personal point of view.
I think as a writer, a songwriter, you really have to own your own lyric, and invest as much as you can in it. That's what I do. I write a lot of personal stuff, how I feel about things, but it's about. But also, I'm trying to entertain people. I'm trying to coax something out of them by telling a story, and at the same time, they might be edified a little bit about my point of view. I'm not trying to preach that to them, but if they if they think again about something, I think I'm cool with that, you know.
You're very cool with that too. Okay. Thanks so much, Pete Eastmure. That's about all the time we have. Special thanks to Pete. Where can our listeners hear more of your music, Pete?
Sorry, what's that?
Where can our listeners hear more of your music?
Oh, well, you can hear it on YouTube. I have my own channel, Pete Eastmure, and you can follow me on Instagram, Pete Eastmure Music, and what else? My website at PeteEastmure.com, and I'm doing a show coming up on June the 16th at Drone Taverna on Queen Street in Toronto, accompanied by David Baxter, a really good guitar player, and then I'm just planning a summer tour, which I can't tell you what it is right now. I'm still in the works. Okay. And, just playing more music.
Awesome. Okay, we will link to your stuff on the show post for this episode. And we want to hear from you, our listeners, so please send your comments, Twitter, Facebook, or Instagram to @SongTalkRadio, or send us an email, feedback@songtalk.ca. Also be sure to check out our YouTube channel for live performance videos and full episodes. Subscribe today to the Song Talk Radio podcast on your favorite podcast provider, and find links to all the products, books, and web services we mention on the show on our resources page on the website. And please join us at our next monthly Song Talk meetup, whether you're in Toronto for our in-person meetups or anywhere in the world for our online meetups. It's free to join on meetup.com and free to attend. Bring a song and a lyric sheet and get constructive feedback from other songwriters. Oh, there's a dog. Stop by songtalk.ca for the
Knew
link.
she had to make an appearance here somewhere.
Of course. Okay, you can follow me at neilmodi.com. You can follow Susan
at Susan C Music. On Instagram.
On Instagram, which is blowing up as we speak. And Pete, your Instagram is the best place for people to follow you on social?
Yeah, because they'll follow all my tours and all the various stuff that I'm doing. Yeah.
Cool. All right.
And there's Facebook music page as well, Pete Eastmure.
Pete Eastmure on Facebook and Instagram. Okay, perfect. Okay, thanks for listening, everybody. Be sure to stop by the website, songtalk.ca, to browse past shows and find out how you can be a guest. Thanks for tuning in, and keep on writing.